Okay, guys. So I was looking at Tim Pool's channel, and he's pretty much right. He's being a bit facetious when he says it's a censorship board, what Facebook is about to implement. But it kind of is, So, anyways, how's it hanging, dudettes? Gravy, like button, you know what I'm saying? Gravy in the comment section. For those of you who don't know, the algorithm loves gravy, so you got to feed it some gravy. You know what I'm saying? Gotta have the gravy, or it just doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Videos don't get promoted. It is what it is. So these are the people Facebook put in charge of deciding whether to delete controversial posts. And whether this is a censorship board or not, I kind of think it is. Really, it's just passing the buck. It's Mr. Mr. Lizard Eyes over here, is afraid going up to Congress every 5 days. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to put this board in place to pretty much delete posts that they think is super offensive or super controversial, and that way, whenever something happens in Facebook, they're like, "Oh, look at this happened on Facebook." So the advertisements is shown on this crazy post, and blah 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 blah. And Mark Zuckerberg can just go, "Hey, look, we have an oversight board, and they failed, so I'm passing the buck to them. They have to answer." And that's what's really going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And that's the key here, is Facebook is absolving themselves of their sins. So even though they could easily institute a fact-checking algorithm, there's apps out there. I'm sure they could work with there's some app, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, app, oh goodness, but there's an app out there that actually gives like 5-star ratings to outlets and stuff like that. So if people promote articles or fake articles, they can easily fact check stuff like that. They have apps for it, and they're a multi-billion at least dollar industry or company. They could easily develop something. So it's just an easy way out for them, and it took them this long to do that. So never mind the censorship, we're getting ready to get into that. Facebook announces the first 20 members of its oversight board. The board is an independent body, keyword there, independent body that can overturn the company's own content moderation decisions. Facebook said the board will begin hearing cases in the coming month. It's like Facebook on Wednesday announced the first 20 members of its oversight board, an independent body that can overturn the company's own content moderation decisions. The oversight board will govern appeals from Facebook and Instagram users and questions from Facebook itself, although it admitted it will have to pick and choose which content moderation cases to take due to the sheer volume of them. The board will receive cases through the content management system that is linked to Facebook's own platform. They will then discuss the case as a group before issuing a final decision on whether the content should be allowed to stay up or not. Okay, now here's the thing. Whoever's going to be on this oversight board, how are you going to control their biases? How is that going to happen? Are you going to have 3 right-leaning folk, 3 left-leaning folk, 3 independents? How do you know what their independents? What is their personal biases? You're going to have, I don't know, what is it? Environmental activists? Or are you going to have, a bunch of Koch brother people on your board? So I guess they're creating an independent board, and let's go ahead and click this link and see. So, I guess it just links right back to the same. Okay, I guess we can't see who's on there. If anybody knows, let me know. I think that this is kind of shady. So this body will prevent the concentration of too much decision making within our team. Zuckerberg says, see, that's what I'm saying. He's absolving himself of his sins. He doesn't, anything that happens on his site, he's like, oh, it wasn't me. My hands are clean. I didn't have to do it. We have nothing to do with this. It's a third party entity that we created. So, oh man, Zuckerberg's comments came one day after a report in the New York Times that derailed how Sherry Sandberg and other Facebook execs tried to downplay and spin bad news, among other things. Facebook worked with Definers Public Affairs and Washington-based public relation firm. So the thing is, Facebook's trying to absolve themselves of their sins by making this third-party entity do it. But the thing is, the reason why they can't do it themselves is because they have biases built in. You know what I'm saying? And how can you make sure that this oversight board doesn't have biases in it? It's only an oversight board of 20 people. Who's working underneath them? There's much more that needs to be fleshed out, and they're about to start working in a week. The whole thing is just too shady for everybody to take wholesale. And another question is, why is people even using Facebook in the first place? You know what I'm saying? This is crazy. Oh man. So the comments come one day after the bombshell report in the New York Times outlined Facebook's effort to avoid and deflect the blame in public conversation around the handling of Russian interference and other misuse of the social network. Facebook will start to pilot this independent body in the first half of 2018. So the company said it does not know any members of the body who will be selected as far as any of the key details. So why not just have people have an open Discord? You know what I mean? There's algorithms you can place, and if the stuff's not properly vetted, or if it comes from sites that have been known to create false stuff, or it's not openly labeled satirical or stuff like that. You can have guidelines that institute on that. You know what I mean? But this whole censorship thing that's what it is. If these people have certain biases built in, whether it's left or right, certain people are going to be silenced. And if it ends up being like Twitter, it's going to take a long fight. And if you're not as open-minded as Jack Dorsey, you're not going to end up on, you don't see Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan podcast. You know what I'm saying? So what do you have to hide? Who are you talking to? Who's, what are you, where the the dark, smoke-filled rooms that you attend? What's happening there? That's what I want to know. But anyway, so, everybody take everything with a grain of salt. Everything should be, looked at, sniffed, touched, tested, and, don't ever agree to any terms of service anymore unless you actually know for a fact. There's YouTubers out there who will read terms of service and tell you what's in there, what's legal, what's not. So, you guys can go out there and search those people. So, I don't know. That's all I got. I just think that Facebook is shady and they're weird. And I don't know who uses Facebook, but a lot of people do apparently. And stop using that because, it warps your brain. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, all right. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.